Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta. We're a Minnesota sports podcast. So if you're a Minnesota sports fan, please click that like button, and also please click the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And today we're going to be talking Minnesota Vikings. After a tough loss on Monday Night Football to the Philadelphia Eagles, they get to come back home against the Detroit Lions. And I think normally we'd be pretty relieved that they'd have a bounce back game against the Lions at home. Typically, that would be a great day for the Vikings defense, and we'd hold the Lions to a low-scoring amount historically, especially within the last several years. But now it seems like it's going to be more of a tougher challenge. Dan Campbell's got the Lions playing inspired. They played the Eagles tough. They beat the Washington Commanders last week, so they have the same record as us. What are your thoughts on this game, Liberta? I think last I've seen the Vikings are favored by 6. I guess what are your thoughts in terms of that line, and if you think it'll be a close game?
This feels like one of those trap games. I don't know. It just feels like a get-right game for Kirk Cousins playing at home in the noontime slot off a really rough Monday night outing. So It feels like it has all the makings of a win for the Vikings. But yeah, something just feels a little bit different again, I guess, just because the lines are getting better. And as you said, they're playing inspired football for Dan Campbell. And I think they're slowly but surely getting there as far as just being a competitive team. And I know we lost it last year in Detroit the last time we played this team. And then we narrowly escaped with a victory at the beginning of last year at home just because of the Craig Joseph 54-yarder for the win at the buzzer. So like that obviously was a close call. So I still feel pretty good about this one. I think we'll find a way to win, especially with this coaching staff, good energy in the locker room. I think this will be a great chance to respond to some adversity after they really came out flat against the Eagles. I think they'll bounce back and look the way that they should, or we'll see the way that they should, but I don't think you can sleep on this Lions team either. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You definitely can't sleep on them. I think we've kind of learned as Vikings fans, and I'm sure there's, lots of other fans that feel the same way. The Vikings can't take anybody for granted. Like there's been games where we've, I think back to 2018 when Josh Allen was a rookie, the Buffalo Bills, he comes in and they steamroll us and we were like 17 or 18 point favorites.
Exactly.
So, that sort of stuff can happen all the time to any team, but it tends to happen to the Vikings. And that was under a different coach and different regime and stuff like that. But I'd like to think Kevin O'Connell's going to have these guys way more prepared than he did Monday night. But then again, going into that game, I thought he was going to have them well prepared too. So definitely don't take them lightly. But I think this is kind of an early inflection point in the season. If you lose this game at home, first of all, that's a bad look. That's a rough home loss, especially when you got to win all the home games you can, considering, we're just not a great road team. And, if you want to win the division, you probably need to win all but 1 or 2 of your home games. So if you lose to a division team at home, that's going to be tough, especially when it's the Lions. If you get to 1 and 2, then all of a sudden you're trying to fight back to climb to 500 and above. Granted, you'd have games against the Saints and Bears after that, but it wouldn't be an easy road back to 500. And then you'd have the Dolphins before the bye. So you're looking at a very realistic scenario where you could be 2-4 or 3-3 at the bye. But if you win this game, however, on the flip side, you could be 4-2 at the bye, which is kind of what you were talking about after that Eagles game Monday, is that, if you can get to 4-2, say you probably lose to the Dolphins, that'll be another tough road game. I mean, we'd all take that at that point, being 2 games above 500 at the bye. And then the schedule definitely seems to get easier from there on out as well. So it's kind of a big game early, but I think this is a good test too. A team that's going to come in and play inspired, even though the talent level doesn't match ours, just come out and play aggressive and play clean and play smart and just take care of business like you really should. I mean, if you're truly a playoff team, if this team's truly different than it has been the last couple of years, they go out and definitely handle business, make no mistake about it. And there's no late game controversy like a 54-yard Greg Joseph field goal and Kirk Cousins going over and grabbing the head coach by the collar. So I'm hoping we don't have any of those late game fireworks this year.
Yeah, I sure hope not. Hopefully it's just a nice, crisp, clean game where our offense looks more like they did against Green Bay than they did against Philly. And I think we'll be really rolling. And I think it'll turn into a big win. I think this Lions offense is better than maybe some people give them credit for just because they have some playmakers. Like Swift is a very good running back. I think amon-ra St. Brown has proved to be a very reliable safety blanket as far as a receiver goes for Goff. And then you got TJ Hawkinson. He's a pretty solid tight end too, former first-round pick. So like they have some players, and their offensive line actually is probably a top 5 unit in the league. I believe the first couple of weeks at least, they're the top pass blocking unit. So like that's not going to be no easy task getting to Goff. So like I think that offense can score some points, but I think in our own way, or in speaking to our offense, I guess it's just we should be able to still outscore them, just because I feel like we should have one of the more dynamic offenses compared to the rest of the league, not just this Lions team. So yeah, I would say we should be on our way to a hopefully a comfortable win, like you said. I think that's key there, just to make you feel good again. So because I think we are truly somewhere between where we played against the Packers and where we played against the Eagles, and albeit it kind of depends on playing on at home or on the road,
right?
And especially a game like this, that's ever so important to win against the division, just because that's what it comes down to at the end. If you end up tied with anybody to try and win it, then it comes down to your head-to-head. If you split that, then it comes down to your division record. So hypothetically, let's say you end up tied with Green Bay at the end, and you already won the home game, but let's say we lose at Lambeau later in the year, then it's coming down to this division record. So like you can't drop these games against the Lions or the Bears.
Yeah, that's a great point too. The tiebreakers at the end of the season could certainly come into play. Before we get into game predictions, it came out. It seems like Cam Dantzler was actually benched for Caleb Evans in that Monday night game.
That surprised me. Yeah.
The deep ball that beat Cam Bynum apparently was Cam Dantzler's fault, which everyone kind of thought was weird. You would think the safety would take the deep guy, the corner would take the shallow guy, but
yeah.
And then also like Lewis Seen only got 1 snap at safety. After Harrison Smith went out with a concussion. And I think Ed Donatel was quoted as saying, if Harrison Smith can't go, then, then it's going to be Josh Metellus and Lewis Seen or Lewis Seen. I mean, are you concerned at all about, I thought Dantzler played a pretty good game outside of apparently that touchdown being his fault. Are you concerned at all about some of these guys in our secondary not quite living up to the early season expectations?
Yeah, I don't like the feel of this. It's got Zim vibes written all over it, where it's like easily end up in the doghouse look, where it's right. Like with Dantzler, like you said, I think he played mostly a good game. I didn't realize watching that play that was his fault, the deep touchdown. Like you said, just logic would say it's the safety that's like going to stop everything over the top, and the corner's going to play up. But I guess it was the other way around. That's just what the scheme was. So don't have a problem with that. Like that's on Dantzler, but it's like, why there's got to be more to it than that, than just this one play and then he's benched. Like I feel like there's something else there, and that kind of concerns me. And then Lewis Seen, I feel like with Harrison Smith out, he should obviously start, but if he's not, that's not great either. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I don't like it. I'm not going to be too panicked about it now, but like still doesn't give me a good feeling, I guess.
I'm hoping the thing with Seen is just the fact like he wasn't available for the first game. He missed a few days in training camp with a random injury, which I don't think was related to the knee injury he had. But, I'm just hoping it's from a lack of like practice time or whatever. Because, if skill wise or like smarts wise, if he's not there as a first round pick, that's alarming. And granted, he's just a safety. It's not like he's a Laquan Treadwell who was expected to come in and produce right away, or like I'm trying to think of other first round busts we've had. Christian Ponder obviously is the huge one, but at the same time, it's like, you kind of expected this guy would come in and be a huge contributor right off the bat. And all the things they said about him throughout the preseason, OTAs, all that sort of stuff, they were just raving about him and his leadership skills and how smart he is and how quick he's picking stuff up. It's like, if he can't even get on the field in the case of an injury to Harrison Smith, that's definitely concerning to me. And you're right. It's kind of got the Zim vibes where it's like, you're sort of in the doghouse, even if you have more talent than the guy that's ahead of you.
Yes.
Especially the Dantzler thing. Like, there's zero doubt in my mind that he's the best corner on this roster right now. He's better than Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson is old and slow, and I think he's kind of washed. And, I think Shannon Sullivan's actually played pretty decent, but he's strictly a slot corner. Then you got Andrew Booth, who's been hurt, and, who knows if he'll play this game this week. And then Caleb Evans as well is just, he's a rookie. He got in for when Dantzler was benched, but it's like, I don't think you can really trust him much either. And then obviously there's Chris Boyd, who special teams extraordinaire, who gets run down by a punter on a blocked field goal. But the corner and back depth is definitely concerning there as well. So something to keep an eye on. Hopefully it doesn't rear its ugly head against the Lions this week. But What's your score prediction for this game, Roberto? How you feeling it's going to shake out?
Yeah, Vegas always knows how to pick these lines, so I would say we end up somewhere right around there, 6 or 7 point win, where we cover, we don't. I think it'll be very close. I would say we win a game 31-24.
Okay.
I think I'm going to land there. I think this is a good get-right game for the offense. I think Jefferson will have a big day, but I also think our defense might have some challenges stopping this Lions offense. I mean, this crazy as that sounds really when you look at past history, but like if you look at just the first 2 weeks of the season, they scored 35 against Philly, then they scored, I think it was 36 last week against Washington. So like they can put points on the board. So I would not be surprised at all for them to put up even 24. So yeah, that's why I'm landing at 31-24. Good day for both offenses.
I like that. I'm gonna say Vikings win 24-17.
Okay.
I think it'll be a little more low scoring just because I think everyone's anticipating it kind of being a shootout almost with two not so great defenses. But these Lions games tend to be a little ugly too sometimes.
They can get sloppy, all these division games.
Yeah, I mean, even like, even though there's been games where we haven't had much of an issue beating them, it's like we still haven't put up like 35 points or something against them. So I'm predicting a lower scoring game. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Vegas line is about right. And I mean, hopefully they can win comfortably by a touchdown, and there's no drama at the end of the game where Jared Goff's trying to mount a game-tying drive or anything. But
yeah, exactly. Hopefully that ends up being like a backdoor cover where you're actually up by a couple touchdowns and then they score a touchdown late to make it a 7-point game. But
right, yeah, exactly. So, any other final thoughts from you before we take off here about this game this weekend?
Yeah, I think everybody's just got to pay attention to see how this team bounces back from adversity. Clearly, under the last regime, especially in those last couple of years, they just couldn't do it when things were bad. They just got worse. I mean, when it rains, it pours, at least with that old coaching staff. So now it's time to see how we pick ourselves up the first time with O'Connell, first time after a loss. So I think that'll be really critical to really unpack. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think, granted, like we've mentioned, Detroit's not a great team, but I think that'll be the true difference between this year's team and last year's team is, can we come back from that adversity? Can we punch back, get back above 500? And then you go into a stretch where it's like the Saints aren't that great, plus it's not a true road game. And then you have Chicago at home, and Chicago's a horrible football team. So you'd like to think you could go on a little bit of a run here before you hit that Miami game right before your bye.
Yeah, the Miami game looks tough now.
It does. I mean, especially because it's right before your bye. I mean, you might already be a little checked out. And then on top of it, you got two of the fastest receivers in the NFL.
And I don't know what kind of answers we'll have for them.
No, this team will not be able to cover them. No chance. So, I mean, I'm okay with us losing that game for sure. But, yeah, it'll be interesting. Hopefully they can come out and play a good game Sunday and kind of put all that doubt that's in our minds right now to rest, at least for another week. So
yes,
that will do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I mentioned earlier, please click the like button on this video and feel free to subscribe to our channel, especially if you're a Minnesota sports fan, and help spread the word about our Minnesota sports conversations. Feel free to give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you see this game shaking out? Are you concerned at all about Cameron Dantzler or Lewis Cine? And any other thoughts you might have on this game or the Vikings season in general. So until next time, thanks for watching.